So just knowing what it's been and also knowing it could get a little bit worse when that heavier rain moves in, that's something we have to keep an eye on. Timing is still on track. We're watching between now mostly up until about 3, 4 in the morning. After that, things will be quieting down. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please be sure to let me know what you're seeing and in your areas. But really helpful to me if you can include your location when you do so. Otherwise, we just do not know where you are. So it's helpful if you include that location when you're providing any sort of reports. We are live on 2 spots, on the meteorologist Tim Buckley page, but also on the WFMY News 2 Facebook page. A couple of people asking, what state is this in? This is not Iowa, this is North Carolina. So we're talking about our weather here locally. Yes, indeed. A lot of people commenting here. Let me put up the radar and then I'll start to look at your comments, but I'll give you a little overview, a little lay of the land of what's going on. And we'll try and keep this going as long as we can. It'll be pretty informal chit-chat throughout, so don't expect me to be talking the entire time. It'll kind of be coming and going. Bottom line, this is your cold front. Okay, so we've been tracking this throughout the course of the last several hours. The front itself is still on the backside of the mountains, but we're seeing a line of heavier rain move closer to us ahead of it. And as that continues to happen, we're going to see more and more gusty winds and more downpours moving into our area. So right now we're seeing some of that in South Carolina. We're seeing some heavier rains as well in the foothills. Now the winds have already been whipping. This is a live view in Burlington. This is on top of one of the buildings over there in Burlington. I realize I need to show you my graphics. So ignore me. Sorry. Apologies for that. I'll pop the radar back up in a second, but you can see these flags whipping in the wind over Burlington, North Carolina right now. Burlington at last check was reporting winds sustained at about 15 miles per hour. But they have been gusting around 30 miles per hour as well. This has been very constant. So this has been the way it's been for several hours already. Have heard of some downed trees in some communities too. High Point, starting to rain there. Winston-Salem, we're seeing temperatures in the 60s with some rain as well. In Greensboro, the wind is sustained at 24 miles per hour, gusting much higher than that. So it's really packing a punch, and you can probably, this is a loud howling wind across our area, so you can hear this, I'm sure, in your homes while you're trying to get some sleep. You're not sleeping because you're watching this right now, but it's tough to go to sleep when it's this windy. A lot of people have issues with that. I don't like it either. I remember I was back home in January when we had our other high wind event, and I did not like it at all. I was up and down the whole night, kind of spooked a little bit for a tree not too far from my home. So this is something we have to keep an eye on for several more hours until about 4 to 6 in the morning, okay? Those are your sustained winds. So when we talk about a wind, we talk about 2 ways. Number 1 is sustained. That's constant. That means it's not varying from that speed all that much. That's kind of the floor. So that's your minimum wind. The gusts can go higher than the sustained wind. A gust is usually 1.5 times or maybe even double the sustained wind, and it varies. But right now, we're seeing gusts between 30 and 40 miles per hour across much of the area. So at last check, Asheboro just recently had a wind gust up to 38 miles per hour. Greensboro a little bit ago had one up to 41. So it just depends on where you are, but pretty much all of us have been getting these gusty winds, and they're going to continue. They're going to continue a little bit. How long? Well, here's an idea. This is right about now, close to 1 a.m. By 2 and 3, we're starting to see some progress. You see how the model shows you at this point that the winds are slacking off by 3 a.m. in the foothills? Well, that's because those rounds of heavier rain will have moved past you, and when they do, you get a little break from this. By 4 and 5 and 6 a.m., that's when we're really starting to improve across most of the area. So I think we're really in much better shape when people have to get off to work and school. Some schools did delay, by the way. You probably already know that. But if they didn't, you're probably in pretty good shape after 7 and 8 o'clock. Now, it will still be windy throughout the day on Friday, but not damaging or problematic. Futurecast, what's it showing? Well, over the next hour, we're going to find that heavier rain start to move through the foothills. So Surrey County, you're already getting it. Wilkes to Yadkin as well. It's going to be making its way into Stokes and Yadkin and parts of Forsyth by 1 and 2 a.m. Closer to Guilford by Rockingham and Danville and Caswell and Davidson and Randolph, more like 2 to 3 a.m. And then 3 and 4 a.m. farther east. The front itself will move through around 6 in the morning, and that's when our temperatures will start to drop like a rock. I'll blow it back here so you can see. See this? This is 5 a.m. Notice the temperature change. So the temperatures are going to drop about 10 to 20 degrees early tomorrow morning. A lot of questions have said, Tim, what about tornadoes? I'm not that worried about tornadoes for our area, and the reason why, well, we don't really have tornado fuel. We don't really have thunderstorm fuel. So there's really just not a good risk of tornadoes in our area because we don't have instability, which is that fuel that allows the air to go up really, really fast in the atmosphere, rising air. And we don't have a lot of that right now, which is why also our thunderstorm risk is pretty low. But the wind risk is high. Wind advisory remains in place for the next 6 hours. It goes until 7 in the morning. Let's show some of the radar views now. So you're seeing mostly light rain in Guilford County. I went outside just a minute ago. It was sprinkling just a little bit. No issues with that. That's just regular old rainfall. We're seeing some of that also up in Eden. Just some regular old rain at the moment. It's moving very quickly. Reedsville, you're seeing a little bit of rain getting things wet. Now, where is the heavy rain? We are starting to see it moving into parts of our coverage area. So let's look out to the west. Wilkes County, Watauga County, Ashe County. Very heavy rain across the Blue Ridge right now. And in the foothills from, Wilkes over to Yadkin and Wine Country, and we're seeing this over here in Surrey County. It is coming down, and this is a sideways rainfall, to be sure. In Mount Airy, in Dobson, in Elkin, it's really coming down. Pilot Mountain, you're just getting into this now. Sideways rain. Same for Westfield. Same up into Patrick County, Virginia. Very heavy rainfall. And when we look at the radar and we see different segments like this, where you see this kind of elongated, heavier rain band, this is where we could find those localized gusty winds that are maybe up in that 50 mile per hour range as opposed to the 30-40 mile per hour range. So those might be where we see issues where more trees might be able to come down and bad stuff like that. So that'll be something we're looking at on radar. And we see a couple more of those segments if we go a little bit out of our area now and see what's to come. This is in Hickory, so we're looking down closer to Catawba County, very heavy rainfall there. We also see that in Caldwell County. Same thing for Gaffney, South Carolina. This is moving through Cleveland County, approaching Gaston County, and starting to come into Charlotte. Charlotte just recently had a wind gust up to 40 miles per hour. Clemson, South Carolina at the university had a wind gust earlier of 63 miles per hour. But why would that be? They have some of that thunderstorm fuel. They had thunderstorms down there, and one of those really put down some nasty wind gusts. So a little bit of a different situation in South Carolina where things are a bit more favorable for thunderstorms right now. Even so, we have to watch the radar when those heavier rain bands do push through, which again, for most of us, should be between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. That's when we're going to have those highest wind gusts. I've done a lot of talking. Sorry about that. I do want to hear what you have to say. So I'm going to look through most of the comments here and see what you are experiencing, where you live. Please let me know where you are, by the way. So I'm going to scroll back through the comments and kind of go through. We'll start out on the WFMY News 2 page. Brittany's in Stokes County, where she says it is raining. Other questions and comments. Is it going to be worse than it is right now? Chuck McDougald would like to know. Great question. I do think it will get a little bit windier than it is right now, and that'll come with some sideways rainfall. So that's mostly going to be, as I was showing you just a minute ago, between that 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. range, okay? Very windy for Janet and Snow Camp. A lot of wind for pretty much everybody, it would seem, like Joe in Reedsville and Michael near UNCG. Keisha's having trouble sleeping because the wind is so bad. A lot of us understand what you're feeling. That is definitely the case. Claretta is hopeful for some snow. No, we left that back in January, my dear. Other questions. Tish says her daughter claimed that the wind is sounding like a motorcycle in Gibsonville. Yeah, I believe that. It's very noisy. It's really something that you can hear a lot of times. Larry would like to know how much rainfall can be expected. Most of us should plan on about a half an inch of rain. It's really going to vary based on the strength of those downpours, but most of us should plan on about a half an inch of rain pretty quickly. I'm going to scroll back on the meteorologist Tim Buckley page and see the comments. A lot of people just saying hello. Larry saying good morning. We have who else? Marcia claims it sounds like her roof is coming off in Madison. Hopefully that's just, you know, an analogy, but that's what it might sound like when this wind is really, really windy. That's for sure. Tina has some howling wind in High Point. Rain and wind for Shannon in Walkertown. Margaret up in Fancy Gap. So you should be already experiencing the worst of it in your area. I don't expect it to get much worse than it is right now, but it'll be windy, around 40 mile per hour or so. Sampson County, a little bit out of my area, Cam and Ted, I'm sorry to say, but you should be pretty calm for a while now. It's still pretty far away from you. You'll have some rain tomorrow morning. Big Bad Wolf with wind in Snow Camp for Todd. Richard, no, the last severe thunderstorm warning there was that storm that moved through Clemson and also close to, well, right over Greenville, Spartanburg. That was the last one. We don't have any right now. I would be surprised if we have any more, to be honest with you, based on what I'm seeing. Susan, I live in Greensboro. Questions. Is the wind going to calm down? Bridget wants to know for her birthday tomorrow. So it will still be gusty throughout the day. It shouldn't be damaging or windy. Sorry, it shouldn't be damaging or big time problematic, but it's still going to be windy. We're going to have winds gusting tomorrow, basically between 20 and 30 miles per hour throughout the day, okay? Looks like right now Charlotte Mecklenburg is reporting 3,000 power outages. Not something we'd like to see. That can be a clue of what we're in for later on. So Charlotte reporting about 3,000 people without power. Forsyth County has about 300 without power at the moment by comparison. But that would indicate some downed trees and problems over there. Other questions. Gerald's up in Surrey County. He's up in the Mount Airy region. He says it's very gusty at the moment. Yeah, a lot of people don't really like this kind of weather, that's for sure. If you have pressure headaches, you're not going to like the next couple of hours. The pressure is changing a lot. So the pressure is dropping right now, and then it'll rise tomorrow morning. That's quite literally what a front is. A front is a drop in pressure followed by a rise in pressure. That's what helps to create the weather. So yeah, if you have issues with pressure headaches, that's going to be an issue for you. You would probably know better than me, I would say. Tish, wind gusts for Gibsonville between 35 and 45 miles per hour for the most part. Yep. And again, folks, we're not really having much rain at the moment. We're not going to see any super soon. It's still a couple counties away, but by 1 and 2 in the morning is when more of that gustier, heavier rain is going to fill in and move our way, and we would expect to see, you know, more of the downpours that can make for some of those tougher winds. Again, there's a look. I know it's silly that it says LabCorp here, but that just happens to be the building that our camera is on in downtown Burlington. You can see it's whipping around quite a bit. Dawn is asking, will it get worse? Yeah, so the worst it should be will be in the next several hours. So when we see those downpours moving through, which is between 1 and 4 in the morning, is when it should be the worst. Yes. Hearing of some down trees near Pilot Mountain right now. Someone tweeting me that he's hearing and seeing some trees falling in his backyard. That's there with the heavier line of wind. Yeah, that's not a good sound to hear. So wasn't able to see anything, but you can hear that sound in Pilot Mountain of a tree coming down, and that is going to be a risk. So down trees are an issue. Power concerns could be an issue as well. It's quite evident just by looking at this video. Things are whipping around, and when things whip around like that, you can eventually have some down trees. Robin wants to know any possibility of a tornado. I am not expecting any tornadoes. I'm not expecting any tornadoes. That's a very low chance. Coretta, what will the wind gusts be at the worst? Around 50 miles per hour. So we've been pretty consistent throughout the last couple days saying between 35 and 50 miles per hour are possible. And that continues to be the case. So Christina, you're up in Pinnacle. I just got a video from somebody, I just played it, you probably heard it, of a tree falling in that area. He said he's had about 2 or 3 falling near Pinnacle. And again, Tony, I'm not expecting tornadoes. I would want to ask Christina, you said you had some horrible gusts. Do you still have power, everything like that? Any issues other than the wind just seeming really bad? But it seems that the gusts are picking up quite a bit more. Where should a person move, Larry wants to know, to avoid weather extremes and problems? Great question. You could try Southern California. They don't have the weather problems, but they get earthquakes and they get fires, which are both things that I don't want to mess with. If you can handle cold and snow, the Great Lakes are a good place to be, but they get a ton of cold and snow, and it's really freaking cold and snowy. But they don't have severe weather for the most part. So pick your poison. Depends on what you want to deal with. Everyone deals with stuff. Here in North Carolina, we deal with a little bit of everything, but we don't get a ton of much. Richard, I have the lightning turned on. There is no lightning currently anywhere in the Carolinas that I've seen. I'll play through these wind gusts again because a lot of people are asking about their hometowns at the moment. Again, we don't have an airport in every area. We don't have a actual wind sensor in every town, in every backyard. So this is what we have for real observed data right now. But all of us are seeing winds gusting at the moment between 30 and 40 miles per hour. Now, as we go forward in time, how is that going to change? Well, we should be seeing them get at their worst between 2 and 3 in the morning, winds gusting between 40 and maybe 50 miles per hour, okay? And then after that, they'll start to calm down, especially once you get closer to 5 and 6. That's when that gustiest, that's when the heavy rain will be moving out. Again, the heavy rain can make the wind gustier. Why? Well, when you have heavy rain and downpours, you're able to actually mix down some air from higher levels in the atmosphere. And right now, the wind above our heads is going at 50, 60 miles per hour easily. So if you can bring any of that down, then you can get higher wind gusts. So that's what a downpour can kind of serve as a function of right here. Some good news, we're seeing some of these downpours kind of fizzle out a little bit north of Charlotte. We'd like to see that continue. They're moving very fast. But not liking what I've been hearing from this line. So if you're up in Pilot Mountain right now, let me pause this. The loop can get disorienting. But from what I've been hearing from folks up in Pinnacle and Pilot Mountain, I'd imagine same idea in Westfield, probably the same for Stokes County. This wind is not good. And the downpours will be bad too. So that heavy rain pushing into Stokes and moving through Surrey is likely to continue to create some issues, maybe some more down trees like we've been hearing about. Yeah, Gracie, you know, we've been talking about it quite a bit between, you know, 2 and 3 and 4 a.m., basically between 2 and 3 a.m. for Greensboro, I would say. The thing about winds, they're not constant, so you can really trick yourself into thinking, oh, wow, it's getting better. And oh, it's getting worse. And oh, now it's getting better. Gusts come and go. They're not constant. They're not constant, okay? So it will kind of trick you from time to time in both ways. Report from Megan in Pofftown says it's really picking up. That's on this side of Winston-Salem. So we would be seeing those winds getting a little bit stronger. Where are my Pofftown people? There you are. I knew where you were. That makes sense. It's right ahead of the line of downpours. So this is likely going to be the beginning of our windiest time frame. Right ahead of our line of heavier rain is when we're going to start to see those winds really picking up. Yes, yes, yes. Jason in Troy has a gust of 45. Yikes. Travis reporting power outage in Greensboro off of Friendly Avenue. Not good. I'm assuming that just happened, Travis. Did that just go out? Duke is only showing like one outage in Guilford, but there's a delay on their system. Go ahead and report it if you can, but it seems like it just happened. Is the line moving a little northeast? Yes, it's not moving east, it's moving northeast. That's the direction of it. Do I think the storm will fizzle out before Greensboro, Burlington area? You know, they're so localized. We're all going to have some rounds of heavy rain. And the radar's not going to look like it does right now when it gets over us. It'll change in different ways. I don't think it'll be as strong as it is now when it gets over Greensboro. But we're talking about small differences. It's already baked into the cake now that we're already having high winds, and they're going to get a little higher when it starts to rain. So that's already baked in. That's kind of guaranteed at this point. So there's not really a lot more uncertainty in my mind of kind of what's going to happen. At this point, we're guaranteed 30, 40 mile per hour gusts for a couple more hours. The question mark is, you know, what's the max? Do we see 50 mile per hour gusts or do we stay just below that? That's kind of my question mark at this time. I'm not really worried about big time severe thunderstorms or things like that. I hope that doesn't happen. We're watching just in case. I'm here just in case, but I'm not expecting much of that at this time. Mostly, this is a wind storm for us, a wind event for us that could create some issues with power and certainly create some damaging tree concerns. Dangerous whenever a tree falls down, and that's kind of what's happening. Larry's over in Raleigh, a lot of wind over there. Yeah, I mean, it's really, this has not been a temporary thing. This has been windy for several hours. It was windy this afternoon, and now it's just windier is what's happening. If you're in King, buckle down. This is coming into you in King now. Heavy rain pushing into King, parts of Stokes, Chestnut Grove. Very heavy rain there. Shoals to East Bend, Forbush, down to Yadkinville. Very heavy rain, very gusty winds. Yeah, Jason, I'm still not expecting many storms, and the reason for that has to do with the way that our atmosphere is stacked today. There's just not a lot of opportunity for upward motion It gets a little technical, but we basically are meaning that the air is not cooling off very quickly as you go up with height. You'd want it to cool more quickly so your air can rise really, really fast for a really, really long time. It's rising a little bit right now, but it's actually getting blocked a little bit. So there's not a ton of fuel for thunderstorms, even though it is warm and it is humid. So it's a good question. Tracy says the wind is really loud in Jamestown. These are moving really fast. You know, the whole line is moving very quickly. Generally, it's been at about 50 to 60 miles per hour. Patty, the highest wind gust in Greensboro we've seen so far has been around 41 miles per hour. I do expect it's going to get windier, and that's mostly going to be in the 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. Range. We just had another gust of around 38 miles per hour in Greensboro very recently. Hasn't been quite as bad in Winston-Salem so far. It's just a windy night. I'm going to get a little wet soon too, but a very windy night for sure. Nathan wants to know, are there any more wind lines behind this? No, it stops at the mountains at this time. So we should be done with the heaviest of rain by around 4 a.m. We should be done with all rain by around 6 to 7 a.m. Sharon, the winds will get less by around 6 a.m., but they'll still be in a 20 mile per hour range much of the day tomorrow. So that means that we're going to continue to see a breezy day of weather, but it's not going to be quite like it was. Thank you, Jana, for that report. It really seems like that Pilot and Pinnacle area is pretty bad at the moment. A lot of people asking about tornadoes. We're not expecting tornadoes, folks. Kim is in Arcadia. She says right now it sounds a bit like a hurricane. Jim, sustained winds should be in the 15 to 25 mile per hour range, maybe as high as 30 mile per hour. Right now, that's the way they already have been. Anybody having power issues? Definitely curious about that. Well, Larry, I mean, it's up to you, my friend. I mean, I don't know how you can, what you can sleep in and what you can't. For me, I'm probably going to go home and be tired enough. I'll go right to bed, no problem, at about 2:30. But it depends on you. It depends on how many trees you have around you. If you have earplugs or not, maybe you can put the TV up loud. These are all things that you can decide. But it's still going to be really windy until 4 for most of us. This is not great at the moment, pushing through Stokes County. So this kind of a heavy rain band is what can really put down some nasty winds. And we're seeing that happening right now in Stokes County. Pretty likely at this time that you're seeing some 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts up there in Stokes. This is a live view in Burlington. I'm going to keep this up for a little bit longer. Susie, probably no thunder and lightning. Kelly, the worst wind for Burlington will be between about 3 and 4 a.m. At this time, I wouldn't say that you need to bring the kids downstairs unless you're really thinking there's going to be a tree that falls on your home, but I don't think so. Hearing of a couple of wrecks in Surrey County. This is on Interstate 77 near Dobson. Hearing of a couple of wrecks up there. Hydroplaning seems to be the issue. Yeah, Azaria, I do think this is a lot like the storm that we had back in January. It does seem that way. Shannon, no, I'm not expecting tornadoes. Got to have thunderstorms to make tornadoes. Not really expecting that at this time. Krista says the power is flickering in Winston-Salem. Jasmine says she heard thunder. I haven't seen any lightning strikes showing up on our system, but I appreciate the report. If you're in Union Cross, there's really... There's really nothing around you. Interesting. All right. Anyway, power flickering in a lot of spots. Winds are quite gusty, around 40 miles per hour for most of us. Still watching some rain that's going to be moving through over the next couple of hours. If you're just joining, maybe you can't sleep, maybe you're wondering what's going on. And everyone is asking this. I'm not expecting tornadoes. No, I'm not expecting tornadoes. That is not what we're expecting here. We basically have next to a 0% chance of that happening. But we are guaranteed to have high winds. The high winds are already happening right now, and that's going to continue. These winds are going to keep on whipping us a little bit from time to time through the night. So it's not going to calm down, really. It's basically just going to stay the same and possibly even get a little bit worse. We could get a little bit windier from time to time as we get closer to 2, 3, and 4 in the morning. That's what we're going to be finding most of our heavy rains pushing through. Again, you're watching these web cameras right now. Looks to me like those winds are really whipping pretty good in Burlington still. They've been sustained at about 20 to 25 miles per hour, which is very high. And they've been gusting between 30 and 40. And that's what we're seeing right now. These are your 1 o'clock in the morning wind gusts, which are still pretty consistent with what we've been seeing. I'm going to send out a quick social media post here to my Twitter followers. Just kind of bear with me, and feel free if you have any more questions to shoot them off here. This is really casual. Hey there, George. How we doing?
Doing. A little too early to be doing it, but I'm doing it.
I know. Good to see you.
Lots of wind.
Yeah. You got in just before the rain did.
Oh, good. Can't stand it. It'd be bad to be wet and...
Yes, sir. I'm gonna seem like I'm talking to myself over here. I'm just doing a little Facebook action, so
Oh, I know.
no worries.
I know you're kicking it in.
I'm doing it to keep myself awake more than anything. Appreciate it, my friend. All right, folks, you can tell me what you're seeing in your communities. Seems like Kelly is in Burlington. The trees are swaying for you. In Wahlberg. So for most of us, the worst of these winds should be happening between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. That should be the worst of it. Lisa's in Brown Summit. Several things hitting the side of the house. I don't know. It could be branches. It could be something from the trees. I'm not really sure. Ashley says they just lost power in Clemens. Not what we want to hear, but thank you for that report. I'm kind of actually surprised so far we haven't had too many outages, so I would expect that number is going to continue to go up. And again, in Charlotte, they've been getting this a little bit earlier than us. They've had some gusts around 40 and about 3,000-4,000 outages over in Charlotte too. So that can kind of be a clue as to what we're in for. The wind will get worse when we get those downpours and gusty winds. Sorry, downpours and heavier rain showers to move in. That'll be when they probably are at their highest point for us. But even right now, it's already really windy, right? So that's just going to continue. Back to the radar. I'm gonna look at your comments. Just kind of leave this up here for you so you can see it. Seems like the gaps are filling in, so it's getting a little bit wetter out there right now. These showers and downpours will continue to fill in a little bit as we get into that 1 and 2 and 3 o'clock time frame. Laura's driving from Liberty to Random. Well, number one, be safe. Number two, she says the winds are crazy at the moment. So that would be basically, you know, right around 421. Other questions? Brian says winds are picking up in North Greensboro. And a lot of people are really comparing this one back to the storm that we had over in January. So the first couple days of the year, we had some really gusty action, and then it snowed same day. So that's what we're kind of seeing a repeat. They're not going to be snow, of course, but we are seeing a repeat of those really gusty winds. Yeah, Darren, so it sounds like you know a little bit about the weather. This is a pressure gradient situation. So our pressure gradient is really, really sharp right now. You have super cold air that's moving in to the west, and you have really warm air, of course, is still right around 70 degrees here right now. So with this sharp temperature contrast, I mean, take a look at this. It's in the teens in St. Louis. It's in the 30s in Nashville. Still mid and upper 60s here. It's a really strong front. And what it's doing is it's creating really strong winds on the front side, just kind of surging all that warm air to our area. And you can kind of see it and visualize it when you look at the big picture there. Line of showers, line of storms, just kind of pushing along. The actual front itself, you just saw the temperatures, still on the other side of the mountains. It's this tiny little wimpy line back here. That's the front. That's going to be moving our way. Now, the front won't really cross us until about 6 to 7 in the morning, but the heaviest rain will be done by around 4. Marcy has horrible wind in Thomasville. Julian for Ashley has some winds as well. Yeah. Kelly, you know, it's been hard to get good information about that Pigeon Forge situation. I saw a lot of, you know, viral posts and things like that. As far as I know, they had evacuated an area. They're letting people back in. I think the fire is mostly under control. The rain really helped. It is still, well, no, it's not really raining there anymore. Looks like the rain is done over in Pigeon Forge. But they had a lot of it, and so that probably helped things out quite a bit from what I heard. So the question was to do a couple of future casts. So let's do that for you. First, we'll do a wind future cast. So through about 3 a.m., you can kind of see right here. Once you get that line of heavy rain to move through, your winds will slack off a little bit. So they won't be quite as bad. Greensboro, 3 and 4 a.m. is probably the worst time frame, or maybe 2 and 3, I should say. Burlington, 3 and 4 is probably your worst. By 5 and 6, it's improving. And then the winds just stay kind of annoyingly gusty going into tomorrow. Here's your future cast. This is basically right now. And then this is, I've been noticing this model is a little bit slow. So this is probably more like 2:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And then this would be more like 3 to 3:30. And then here's like 5. And there's 6. So that's kind of your time frame. I can run this back for you. This is right about now. This is around 2. This is around 3. There's 4. There's 5. So that's kind of the trend as we go forward here. I'm hoping I'm seeing most of the comments. I haven't really seen many for a couple of minutes, So I'm going to kind of like refresh my page here and just see if I'm seeing all of them. It looks like that's the case. That's good. That's good. That's good. Wind is out of control. A lot of people saying the wind is out of control. Yeah, I know. It's really windy. Definitely looking fierce here in Burlington. Wow. It is just really, really whipping. It sure is. So we're starting to see some rain fill in here on the radar now. Nothing too crazy, but we are seeing that. I would bet money right now that this is putting down some really bad wind gusts. Anybody in Eden or Stoneville or Martinsville or Madison, Mayodan, let me know what you're seeing. Maybe King, Pofftown, Louisville. What's going on there? That line looks really pretty nasty for wind gusts. So Debbie, I'm just looking at the radar for you in Madison. You have some really heavy rain on the way, very, very, very soon. Crystal, my favorite season is fall around here because it's comfortable and pretty. Don't really like the heat in the summer, don't really like the cold in the winter or the dead trees. Spring, pollen, all that stuff. Flowers are good. Spring and fall are both my favorite. Other questions? Anybody else lost power? Pittsburgh, getting a lot of Pittsburgh questions. Again, a little bit out of my area, but you know, just subtract a couple of hours off the times here. Pittsburgh, you should be seeing, you know, your worst of it should be around 5 or 6 a.m. Everything else still probably not as windy, more like 30 to 40 miles per hour for Pittsburgh. Jeanette in Alaman says trees are starting to fall over there. Not good. Not what we like to see. Right now, Forsyth County is showing over 1,000 outages. So about 1,000 people in Forsyth County have lost power at this time. Charlotte just gusted to 47 miles per hour. Excuse me just a second. Wanted to send this out to social media for folks, but tracking a really heavy line right now. Super gusty winds, super heavy rain. This is pushing through Rockingham, starting to see that. Stokes, parts of Forsyth as well. And so, of course, when we're talking about these winds, what can they do? Well, they can down some trees, and then they can down some power lines, which is why we're looking at a scattered power outage threat overnight. That's just the name of the game. So far, we haven't seen too much of that, but I have a feeling it might be about to get a little worse. So, based on what we're seeing, things might change shortly. Charlotte reporting 4,000 outages in Mecklenburg County, 1,000, really 1,100 right now in Forsyth County. Not seeing those same issues yet in Guilford or in Rockingham or any of those places. But that, like I said, that could continue to change a little bit. Stokes County has about 500 outages, which is actually pretty substantial for Stokes. So power outages are starting to happen for sure. Jasmine, so, and just a heads up for y'all, around 2 in the morning, I'm gonna peace out. I'm gonna head home. Our Christian Morgan will come in around 2 to keep you updated. So we'll do a little change at that time. But right now we're just kind of pressing on for sure. Other questions? Larry wants to know the weather after. Tomorrow, you know, you're in pretty good shape. The sun will be out tomorrow. We'll have some gusty winds for Friday, but nothing like what we're seeing right now. So once you get to tomorrow morning around 7 o'clock, everything's fine. Everything will have happened at that point. Other questions? I'm having a little issue with my graphics here. There they go. So this is, you know, actually, hold on. You're going to see me edit a graphic here on the fly, everybody. Let's do a little edit real fast. So this is your Friday. No rotation, children. Nope. We're really not expecting tornadoes. Susan in Colfax says the floor feels like it's shaking. That's not good. So again, what I'm showing you there, those are sustained winds. Sustained winds means the gusts are a lot higher than that. So very, very gusty and very windy, and we're starting to get very rainy as well. Areas I'm most concerned about right now for gusty winds are are the ones that are getting this line of really, really heavy rain. So this area basically from Martinsville down to King, including Stoneville and Madison and Maydan, these areas, torrential rain, probably some really horrible winds. Thanks for that report, Lisa. I appreciate that. That's the Stokes-Rockingham line, fierce wind and rain. And that's exactly what I'm showing right now. Susan, you didn't have the winds like we had earlier in January. A lot of us felt it about a month ago, too. Maybe it was different at that time. Not seeing any thunder or lightning in any of these showers and storms. So really, they're all showers by definition, I guess. But they are moving very, very quickly. These are not moving slowly. They're moving fast. So really, by around 4 in the morning, most of this is out of here. So we only have a couple more hours. So by 3, most of this is pushing out. And then 4 and 5, we're really seeing it get out of here. So things will be changing pretty quickly. We only have a couple hours left of the tough stuff, but it is going to get a little worse before it gets a little bit better, just judging by the radar for most of us. Yeah, and the power outages are just keeping on. They're just kind of going up and up, unfortunately. So Charlotte now is doubled up to about 6,000 without power. Forsyth is up to 1,300. Everyone else usually just a couple of hundred at this point, but that's probably going to change, I'm sorry to say. That's probably just going to kind of keep on keeping on as we go forward. Yeah, Karen, I hear you. You're in Asheboro, Randolph County, same as everybody else. You know, there's really not much difference. This is one of the weird times where it's kind of the same for everybody. So you are gusting right now to around 40 miles per hour, just like most of the rest of us. And it's going to continue. You're going to see this continuing until about 4 a.m. It might get a little bit worse before it gets better. And that's really when we're going to start to see those downpours pushing into your area. So right now it's light rain, but the heavier rain for Asheboro and for Randolph County, that should be closer to the, let's say, 2:30 and 3 a.m. time frame down that way. Worst of it moving through Rockingham County right now. It depends on what part of Rockingham you're in. If you're in the western part, from Eden to Stoneville to Madison, yes, that's the worst. And you are getting slammed at the moment. That is nasty stuff to be dealing with. In Reedsville, it's not there yet. Ruffin, it's not there yet. So it really depends on where you are as to what you're seeing for the rain. Heavy rain for Guilford County is coming up in the next 90 minutes. So between 2 and 3. So again, this is all kind of coming together now. We're seeing this line of heavy rain get closer. It should already be improving for you in Surrey County, in Wilkes and Yadkin, and even in Stokes. You should be improving a little bit behind that line. It's already drying out a little bit for Boone and Sparta and the mountains and places like that. Farther to the south, what are we seeing? Heavy rain continuing in Charlotte. We have a couple downpours in Rowan, also in Davie County. But we're really starting to see this moving into Forsyth County as well. So let's take a look here at Forsyth. Really heavy rain and driving rain, sideways rain, plowing through from Louisville to Pofftown over to Bethania, up to Walnut Cove in Stokes. This is really tough. This is that tough kind of rain that we're going to see, and it's going to really be windy when it happens as well. Windier than it's been. Windier than it's been. Yeah, Monica, we keep saying, we've said it a lot of times, no tornadoes. But that doesn't mean we're not having windy weather. That is part of it for sure. So, in the midst of all this serious weather, Michael Rodriguez sent me this photo. It's of looks like it's a kiddie pool. He said it ended up in his front yard and now it's in his backyard. Doesn't know where it's from. Kernersville, Carol, you're about to see that really heavy rain get closer to your area. Yeah, so Jonathan, you were asking about rotation. I'm really not seeing any there, at least nothing terribly strong. It just doesn't look all that impressive. There's not much to it, really. There is a little bit of a wind shift, yes, but I wouldn't call that a hook echo. It's in the wrong direction to be a hook echo. It's going clockwise rather than counterclockwise. So mostly just looking at that really high wind and really heavy rain still. And that's starting to push through Forsyth right now. Rockingham still getting rocked. Eden should be really tough right now with that sideways heavy rainfall. Have a little downpour that's popped up in Guilford County too. This is over, where is that? Right there near, replacements on the 40, the urban loop, at places like that, I-85. Just kind of its own little guy right there. It's separate of everything else. Lexington, still not too much rainfall for you, but everybody's getting the wind. We're all getting the wind. So this is new from the National Weather Service. They're saying with this line of showers and storms heading our way, we could plan on and kind of expect to see maybe some winds gusting as high as 50 miles per hour. So that's pretty consistent with what we've been saying to prepare for, but it does look like this line of downpours moving our way could be producing some gusts as high as 50. So that's something to keep an eye on. That's something to kind of, just mentally be aware of that we could see some of those gusts that are really between 40 and 50 miles per hour over the next hour to hour and a half. That would be for Forsyth, Rockingham, Guilford, Davidson, Randolph, Alamance as well. Pretty much everybody, right? And it's, when you're looking at this screen, it's those darker colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, all those things. Yeah, you know, these are, every wind that's not a tornado is by definition straight line. So that's, yes, we are certainly looking at straight line winds. We've been having them for a while. It's just a really nasty line of downpours, just really, really heavy rain. A lot of people, you know, pretty much all of us are just kind of experiencing the same thing. You probably can't sleep. It's probably windier than you'd like. It's not settling. It's unsettling. And this is going to continue for a bit, you know. So what can you do? You can't do anything. You kind of just have to wait for it to pass. And that's not going to be fun either way. Winds look a little less in Burlington right now, but I'm sure they'll come back. There's the radar. Keep in mind, this is all going to pass. It's already passed. In Boone, it's calm right now. Knoxville, Tennessee, it's calm right now. So we only have a couple more hours. Just kind of keep that in mind. It'll all be over soon if you hate it and you can't stand it. And take a look, too. Mount Airy and Wilkesboro, it's not even windy anymore. So they got rid of a lot of their winds. They're in good shape. So everything is kind of panning out like we said, where it's going to be really windy and not fun until you get that line to move through. And when you do, and when that line does move through, and when things start to, you know, lessen up with the rainfall, that's when your wind will start to lessen up a little bit as well. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel with all of that. So things should get better pretty quickly. You just got to wait about 2 hours. Again, there's your futurecast. This is around 3 a.m. Your wind's gusting between 40, 45. And then really getting out of there. So by 4 and 5 and 6, we're really only seeing winds gusting at that point between, like, you know, 15 and 25 or so. Getting word from folks in Surrey County, things are much, much better. Buddy I know that works at 911 up there saying everything is much better. That's good to hear. So true to form, this is the line that's going to give you the gusts, and it'll make it a little bit better when it passes on through. So just hang tight in Winston. This is going to be tough. This is going to be really nasty right now. This is all moving at about 50 to 55 miles per hour. Yeah, Betty, I mean, we've already heard of some trees going down, and that will continue. Laura, no, we're not worried about tornadoes. We're not worried about tornadoes, but that doesn't mean we can't have wind damage. So those gusty winds can certainly produce wind damage. When it comes to down trees or power lines, that is certainly the way it's going. So this is good to hear. So listen to Hilaire here. I hope I'm saying it correct. It might be Hillary. I'm so sorry if I'm getting it wrong. But she's saying that the line just moved through Madison and the winds are already substantially quieter. So they've improved, which means that's kind of, you know, we're going as expected, let's say. It's not throwing us too many curveballs here. So it's going to be pretty bad, but eventually it's going to improve. And it's already happened up there in Madison, which is good to know. Good to know. But yes, if you're in Forsyth County, the next 30 minutes is probably going to be the toughest for you. In Greensboro and Guilford County, looking more like closer to between 2:15 and 2:45, probably, depending on where in Guilford you are. Rockingham, Eden, things will get better in about 15, 20 minutes. Reedsville, things are going to get worse over the next 15 to 20 minutes. That's the way it's looking. So Rockingham under the gun right now. Stokes, it's improving. Forsyth, very much under the gun right now as well. Just a pretty nasty line of rain and storms for sure. It's still really warm, isn't it? So temperatures are still in the upper 60s. That cold air is still back in Tennessee. So we have a ways to go before the chill starts to arrive. That's closer to 5 and 6 in the morning. And there's our biggest wind gust so far. So Greensboro just gusted to 46 miles per hour. Yep, 46 mile per hour gust at Greensboro, sustained wind at 26, temperature 66. Yeah, a lot of people asking about why is Greensboro usually get the highest gust. I don't know. I'm not really sure. It does tend to seem that way. PTI is kind of sitting up on a little bit of a plateau there. It's very wide open, no obstructions. That could be part of it. I'm not really sure. Good to hear. This is from Tammy. She's in East Bend over in Yadkin County. Sounds a lot better, much quieter. That's good to hear. Good news. Here's an important update as well. So Leslie is in Bethany near 158. Just lost power. Not good. Sorry. Nessa in Oak Ridge wants an update. So yeah, it's really windy now. It's going to stay really windy for a couple more hours. The heavy rain that's heading through Forsyth is heading your way. And in Oak Ridge, it should be there close to around, let's say, 2 a.m., 2:15. So this is kind of the line. So bottom line, if you're on the back side of this, if you're over here, things are improving. If you're over here, things are going to continue and then get a little bit worse before they get better, okay? That's kind of the divider here at this point. Wow, so Laura says she had to cut a tree out of the way on Old Liberty Road, so she was able to get home. Yikes. Monica, so far not too many outages in Guilford County. That could change, but so far not so many. So Katie, a lot of this has to do with, Amanda, Randolph's the same as everybody else. Pretty much the same, everybody here. Randolph, you just got to add an hour or so. So, you know, that line will be pushing into Randolph probably by around 2:45, 3 o'clock or so. Katie wants to know, why is the wind so strong? It has to do with basically the temperature difference. We have a cold front that's really powerful. This cold front is driven by a temperature change. So temperatures in the teens out to the west, temperatures in the 60s here. And in between that, what do you have? Well, there's a big difference in pressure in between, and that's the front. And that pressure difference, pressure can create, pressure is what creates wind in the first place. So when you have that rapidly changing pressure, you're really swirling the wind around in such a way that it's really strong. And the bigger the pressure difference, the stronger the winds. That's more common in the wintertime because we have those temperature changes in the first place. In the summertime, you don't really have any changes. It's just hot everywhere. It's humid everywhere. So you don't really see those changes. The only change you might get is if you're able to create upward motion through thunderstorms. So it's much more different in the summertime. You're right. We don't have the widespread winds. We just have thunderstorm winds, which are bad, but very localized. In the winter and in the spring and in the fall, you can have these cold front situations where you have major changes in weather, major changes in air masses, and that's when you get your pressure differences that lead to high wind events. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Gary is in Eden. Brittany is in Eden. Sounds terrible outside. Woke you up. Wind is blowing along as well. It's pouring too. Yeah. That makes sense. So if we go back to the radar, you'll see Eden is in the thick of it. But hang on, because I would like you to tell me if it's improving over the next 5 or so minutes. It looks like that heavy line just moved through Eden. I would imagine it probably starts to improve for you. If so, let me know. If not, let me know too. Same in Madison and Maiden. Is it improving for you? Stoneville, what about you? Hey, Chad Silver's here. Good to see you, buddy. Question was from Chad, really good one. Why do some storms tend to break up as they move across the mountains and some don't? Very good question. A lot of it has to do with, number one, how strong are they in the first place? That's part of it. If it's a weak system without a ton of forcing to create the precipitation, the mountains can really rip it apart. But a lot of it also has to do with the angle of the storm, Chad. So in this case, our storm, we think of it as coming in west to east, but it's really moving southwest to northeast. So where are the mountains? Well, they're right there. You can kind of sidestep them. So they can temporarily weaken it, but Our weather right now is really not coming from the mountains. It's more or less coming from Atlanta. It's more or less coming from Charlotte, which is very different than if it was a true west-east system coming in like this. They tend to break things up the most when they're coming in perpendicular. So that would be like a northwest to southeast. When they do that, there's the maximum amount of, we call it a downslope. So you're taking that wind, you're rising it above the mountains, then you're bringing it down. When you bring air down, you're compressing it. So that air hits the ground, it compresses. That warms things, it evaporates things, and it dries things out. So bottom line, this angle is less likely to get messed up by the mountains. Whereas if it's coming in from the northwest, then you're more likely, especially if it's a weaker system, you're more likely to get broken up and a little bit messed up by those mountains as well. I'm going to leave this latest radar on here because it is a pretty serious deal for Rockingham and for Scythe right now. We're starting to see this move into Stokesdale and parts of northern Guilford. Those are going to be your wind damage centers, I'm imagining. We've already had a 46 mile per hour gust at PTI in Greensboro, and we'll continue to have gusts between 35 and 45 or so. Good reports here. So Brittany told us it eased up in Eden, but Shayla in Stoneville says it's letting up a little bit as well. Ruffin definitely has the tough stuff right now for Tina. This is going to last about 20 minutes or so, so hang tough. This is going to be tough to deal with your heavy rain and gusty winds, but it will improve in about half an hour. It'll improve about half an hour. Crystal, summertime storms don't really come from any direction. They kind of just pop up on their own. So they're much more localized. They have much less to do with overall weather systems. They're just kind of a lot more random, to be honest. Christina, I'm not really sure where you live, so how long does this take to pass? Really depends on where you are, but I can give you a little futurecast and show you what I'm expecting. The whole area will be in good shape by about 4 to 5 a.m. So this is probably even a little bit too slow, but I firmly expect by 4 in the morning, that's about 2 hours from now, the worst of the wind will start to go down, the heaviest rain will start to get out of here, and then by 6 a.m. we should start to see that colder air rush in, which really puts a dent in anything. So we're in pretty good shape at that point. So depending on where you are, it'll vary. Some people are already getting to be in a better place. But if you look at the radar here, and you can kind of find yourself on the map, hopefully, this line is the border between getting better and still pretty bad. No severe thunderstorm warnings, April. No tornado warnings. We're not expecting tornadoes. No, but very, very heavy gusts. Joseph, that's really interesting. So Joseph Zanetti here, he's in just northwest of Eden. The winds ahead of the line were the strongest, and he peaked around 38 miles per hour. They subsided when the rain started. That's very interesting. So it seems like maybe, for the most part, it might be the worst winds are right before the line of heavy rain, and then they actually go down a little bit once you start that band of rainfall. That's interesting to know. Always appreciate the reports, everybody. So if you can include your location, let us know what you're seeing, where you are, all that kind of stuff. Very helpful. Winston-Salem, a wind gust in the last couple of minutes of 37 miles per hour, and the visibility is down to a mile. That would indicate that rain is really heavier at that Smith Reynolds Airport location in Winston-Salem. Kernersville should be pretty tough at the moment. Summerfield too, Oak Ridge as well. I'll tell you what, at this point I'm probably going to hang here at the station until around 2:15, 2:30 until that clears us. I don't want to be on the road for that. Yep, Lynn just confirms it. So it's just started raining in nasty wind in Stokesdale. All right. Adrian, that's good to hear in downtown, but it's going to ramp back up. We're going to be seeing that ramp back up right before that line. Lindsay and Summerfield batten down the hatches, hang tight. It's coming in right now with heavier rain and gustier winds. Walkertown has some roaring winds. Thank you. Larry, no, it looks like it's breaking up a little bit, and that's interesting to know at the moment, but it looks like it's breaking up a little bit. Even so, what's the difference? We're already having those really high winds happening, and it seems to me what's happening is something pretty important. We're finding the radar is actually filling in the gaps here. So the localized forcing of one heavy rain band is kind of getting spread out and more diffuse, and when you would do that, you might be able to spread out the energy a little bit more evenly and a little bit less localized, which might be better for us overall. Bottom line, more light and moderate rain is good. Less heavier rain is good. We would like it to be more uniform if possible. So we'll see if that's a trend that can continue to happen, which seems to be what we're seeing happening in Forsyth County right now. Still really bad in Rockingham County, really bad in Danville. If anyone's watching from Danville, Ruffin, Reedsville, Wentworth, Bethany, Summerfield, Oak Ridge, Kernersville, you're in the thick of it right now. And it's going to continue another, anywhere you are should last about 20 to 30 minutes. Winds calmed immediately. So this is very interesting. This is consistent now. Once the heavy rain gets over you, it seems to be that the wind is actually letting up and lessening, which is very interesting to know. Yeah, some spotter for me up in Madison says the wind is totally calm now. So that's good news. That's good news. When should it ease up in Walkertown? Pretty soon, honestly. If you're in Walkertown, gosh, I'd say 15 minutes or so. 15, 20 minutes. Should improve a little bit there pretty quickly. Our camera's shaking downtown Greensboro. High Point shaking too. Burlington's still whipping around. Yeah, Valerie, you're going to have to wait a little while in High Point. You're not done. You're not even close to done. So for you, it's going to be probably another 30 to 45 minutes at least. Maybe more than that. Maybe more than that. But it's going to take a while. But in an hour, things will definitely be improving there, I would imagine. By 3 o'clock, most of Guilford County is improving. close to 2,000 people without power in Forsyth County right now. It's 70 degrees in Burlington right now. Isn't that crazy? Very strange. Yeah, no real wind to report in Mount Airy. Madison has no wind, so things are calming after that line moves through your area, which is good. And where is it now? Well, there it is. So it's pretty nasty right now for Stokesdale, Summerfield, Oak Ridge, heavy rain. The gusty winds probably are continuing or just now starting to let up a little bit if that heavier rain is moving into your area. That's what we're seeing in northwest Guilford. Pretty bad for Tracy and Reedsville, makes sense. Chad, send me some coffee, buddy. Sure. Thomasville, will you get hit with that line? Not as heavy as it is up there. No, it doesn't look like it. Anybody without power? Anybody without power? Anybody hearing cracking trees? Anything like that? Or is it just kind of, you know, yeah, it's really windy and that's kind of all it's doing? Look at that in High Point. Oof. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back, everybody. I'll leave you with the radar. I'll be back in, 2 minutes. All right, everybody. Sorry to leave you for a second. Just had to go grab something. Still looking really nasty in Rockingham County. Getting little bumps on there, too. Here's what we're seeing right now for wind gusts across the area. This is as of 2 o'clock. Carol says the wind has subsided in Kernersville already, which is good. And just to give you all a heads up, I'm probably going to be wrapping this up in the next 15 minutes. And then I'm going to hand things off to Christian Morgan, our other meteorologist who's coming in. So he's going to, we'll probably have to bring this down for just a couple of minutes and he can restart it at some point. But just want to let you know there will be a little bit of a gap, but we're not leaving you. We're just kind of changing hands, changing the guard a little bit. LaShonda, no, it's not a tornado, but it is very, very windy, very, very gusty, very, very heavy rain as well. This is all pushing through Ruffin, Reedsville, nastiness right now. Summerfield should start to be improving a little bit. Not quite as bad in Guilford as it is up in Rockingham from the looks of things. Forsyth County should be getting a little bit better. Davidson should be getting a little bit better as well. But it's really tough right now for Caswell, for Danville, for Ruffin, for Reedsville. Eden should be getting better, but Reedsville's in a tough spot right now. Let me check up on the power outages here. Really kind of scattered, you know, it depends on on where you are. So mostly we've seen scattered outages, not widespread. There are about 13,000 in the state without power, which is not too bad. Forsyth County does have a lot, 1,300 at the moment. Guilford just a couple hundred. Most areas just a couple hundred, but Forsyth has more right now. Rockingham, you got to hang tight about 30 minutes or so more. That's going to be tough to deal with up in Reedsville. Should be really nasty right now at the moment along 150. This will be close to, I guess, where Church Street comes in. Lake Brent Road, Spencer Dixon. This is right by Northern Guilford High School. So if you're near Northern Guilford High School, it's really tough right now with heavy rain and gusty winds. Probably around 40 mile per hour for the gust. And you can see our Greensboro camera just kind of whipping around in the breeze a little bit. So what we've learned here in the last hour or so is the wind is dying down behind this heavy line, but it's really bad right in front of it. And right now we're actually getting these little kinks forming in the line, these little notches, which is not really what you like to see. This can be when you get some more damaging wind concerns. So certainly worried about some downed trees possibly in Reedsville, Ruffin, Caswell County, those areas. Definitely a problem. Similar story for Monticello and Brown Summit too. Wow, so Justin's up in Caswell. Sounds like big rocks hitting the house. Oof. This is really a sideways rain that is happening. Cheryl's in snow camp. You're going to have to wait quite a while longer. It's probably another hour at least before the worst of it's coming through snow camp, because you're more to the south and more to the east. Rain is really filled in pretty nicely, which is probably a good thing. It means that we're likely going to see more in the way of moderate rain rather than super heavy rain, and that could help to limit our really bad gusts a little bit. Still windy. Charlotte has improved, by the way. They're just gusting around 20 miles per hour now. So it's good news. What we're seeing across the board basically is once you get this round through. So there's a line. Let's kind of try and identify this together here. But there is a line. And this is basically it. This is the line. So if you are west of that line, winds are improving. If you're not, they're still bad. And feel free to tell me if I'm wrong about that, but that's basically, it seems like we've crowdsourced that together through your reports. So Ashboro, yeah, you're still going to get a little bit worse before you get better. April's all done, Madison. Hey, if you're all done, go to bed. It's good news. Go to bed. Cool. Crystal has hardly any wind in Kernersville, which is good news, which means things should be improving. Kelly in North High Point, you probably have another 20 minutes at most or so, I would say, before you start to improve as well. Yeah, so it seems to me like this is kind of moving through Guilford County. So kind of splitting the county right now. This is basically the dividing line, I would say, between the gustiness and the less gustiness. And still really bad in Caswell and really bad in Rockingham right now. Just had another gust of 45 miles per hour at PTI. Sheesh. For reference, back in January, we did have a wind gust of about 54 miles per hour, so that was a little bit more. At last check in Winston-Salem, winds have been a little bit less. Visibility is improving. So things seem to be improving a bit in Winston, which would make sense based on what we've seen in other areas. Also seems to be letting up a little bit in Lexington, which is good news. So all of this is pretty good news, unless you're in the really bad part still, which would be Ruffin, Reedsville, Caswell County. In fact, if you're in Reedsville, let me know if you're seeing improving conditions, because I think it should be improving. Just let me know. Tracy says Reedsville much better. Good to hear. That's good news. So we figured this thing out. Things are going according to plan, which is good. There may still be some additional power outages, but so far they've been pretty much kept to a decent minimum, which is what we like to see. It's really windy here at the station. Arcadia sounds quiet. Good night, Sue. Yeah, that's good. And that's what I would encourage you. You know, if things are improving where you are, go to bed, because you don't want to be a zombie tomorrow. I'm not expecting anything super crazy, unexpected once that line pushes through. It's kind of, you know, all been as expected without curveballs, which is what we like to see. So folks, I'm not going to abandon you here. I guess in a sense I am. I am going to start to head home, but Christian Morgan is going to restart a video within a couple of minutes. So we might be without you for a couple of minutes here, but don't worry, we'll be back with some more coverage. Christian should have you covered here shortly, and that's where we will do. All right, yeah. So thank you so much for following along here. Certainly appreciate that. Couple of things to pass along. Scattered outages continue, couple delays, some road issues, some down trees place to place. Seems to be about what we've been seeing. But again, thanks for watching here. Keep an eye out for more videos popping up. Make sure you're looking on the News 2 Facebook page for that. Christian Morgan will be, taking over from here. But again, be safe. Hopefully you get some rest as well. Wind is no fun. We don't like it. But it is something we deal with, and we'll deal with it again too. Spring is coming. So take care, be good, be safe, and I'll see you later.